Hi, I'm Luminist and thanks for stopping by my channel. Today we're doing something a little different. As you can see, I'm on camera and that's a little weird. I've never done that before on this channel. But yeah, I thought we'd try something new today and go for a production breakdown on some of the Metroid tracks. Well, one of them in particular. It's going to be Brinstar, Red Soil, which I know a lot of people like. Basically, I've received a bunch of messages in the last little while asking like how I do certain things, how I make these tracks, and I thought, you know, this would be a cool way to share that. Hopefully it's interesting, I don't know, we'll see. But before we get into that, I'd just like to do a little shameless plug. You can skip to this point in the video if you'd rather just watch the production breakdown, it's all good. Anyway, I'm starting a Patreon account and it's a little scary because I've never done it before. But basically I'd like to try and get a bit more of a community going with people who enjoy the content I make. And yeah, I just thought that maybe Patreon would be a good way to try that. And so I'm starting it pretty low. It's going to be like $1. And then we'll see kind of how we go from there. But basically, yeah, if you'd like to see more regular content from Luminist, whether that's video game remixes or my own music or sound design stuff, go on over to the Patreon. The link will be somewhere up here or in the video description. But now that we've got that out of the way, we can get to the main point of this video, which is the production breakdown of my rework of Brinstar Red Soil from Super Metroid. So let's get into that. So this is my recording session for Brinstar Red Soil. I'm using Logic 9, and that's just personal preference. I just don't really like 10. Anyway, we'll start by listening to the original piece of music here, and that's this white track down the bottom. It's from the Super Nintendo soundtrack. So I used this track to basically help map out each of the parts for the synthesizer to play. So I basically had to listen to it a bunch of times and pick out like, oh, this is the bass, oh, this is the melody, this is some other stuff. And because I ripped it from somewhere random on the internet, whoever like digitized this file, it doesn't match up to any specific tempo. So I had to cut it a few times to make it fit the tempo that I chose here, which is 76. So the first thing I could hear really is this bass. It's like pretty prominent. So I listened to that bass sound, I recognized the notes, so I played that in to a Midi keyboard, or I probably just drew it in actually with the pencil tool here. And all of these bright green tracks that you can see are external Midi, so they run out of my system into my Korg MS-20 Mini, and that's how I record the synthesizer sounds. So basically these two notes, and you can hear them on their own here. Yeah? And there's just a second double here for the bass that just kind of thickens it up a bit. And you can hear there's some nice reverb and stuff on there. After that, the most prominent thing I would say is the first melody, which is this. So same process. I basically listened to the track a bunch of times, the original one, and then recognized these notes by ear and played them in so that I could send them to the synthesizer. And they sound like this again. So I think I used a slightly different sound here. This is the same melody, but I think I just used a slightly different synth patch, maybe? Yeah. It's just a slightly different sound, but playing the same notes. Just to give a bit of variety. And then we come to the second melody, which is kind of like a fluty sort of sound. And let's hear that. Yeah, and then we've got another version of the same sound, but with slightly different processing, just to make it sound weird and creepy. Yeah. And this kind of grisly effect on the second one is done using Valhalla Space Modulator, which is a really good plugin, and I'm pretty sure it's still free. Yeah, check it out, it's really good. Okay, so then we move along to the third melody, which is a little bit later in the piece. So here we've got some interesting stuff going on. I've got a tape delay happening. That's doing some stuff to make it feel like it's underwater. And then I'm following that with a reverb to just kind of blow it out even more, make it sound like it's kind of really in the background, like it's in a big cave or something, you know? So we'll just go back to the original track now that we've seen a bunch of different elements and see what we're missing. So there's a choir there that I can hear. So we recreated that here by just listening to it. It's just the same note over and over again. And it's two parts separated by an octave, which is just, you know, they're playing the same note, just one octave apart. So I've got two of each playing the high and low part, so 4 in total. And that just helps give it this sort of choir-like effect, even though it's, you know, a little bit more subdued than the original track. I think it sounds pretty nice. And so all 4 of these tracks are being sent through this Valhalla space modulator, which is using a preset that makes everything sound like it's kind of weird and metallic and underwater. And there's some weird pitch shifting going on. It's really cool. I've been using it a lot actually throughout all of the Super Metroid tracks. So now pretty much all that's left is the percussion sort of sounds. So let's go back to the original now. So there's this really atmospheric, like, that sound I really like, and I was having a bit of trouble figuring out how to make a hi-fi creepy version of that. And so I just layered a bunch of sounds together until it sounded vaguely right. So the first one was this. So I'll just take the effects off quickly. Doesn't sound like much on its own, but yeah, basically that's, I think, a distorted hi-hat maybe with some tremolo and an EQ to take off all of the low end, like way up, just so that it's more of just a noisy sound. And that's being sent into a delay unit and a reverb that also has a tremolo on it to give it that like sound. And then, yeah, we mix that with this, which is actually the sound of a crowd in an arena that I just cut up and placed at the right places to make it sound like this like hi-hat sort of cymbal-y noise. And then those two are combined into each other and they're being sent through this filter, which kind of like you could see it slowly moves just to give a little bit of variance to this sound over time, and let it evolve as the track kind of goes on. And it, you know, it makes it sound a little bit less static and more exciting, you know? And then the last thing is the kick drum. It's just a kick drum, a sample that I found somewhere. I put some reverb on it and low passed it so that none of the clicky sound, I think it was a bit clicky. Let's see. Yeah. So I don't want that click. It doesn't work for this track, so I just filtered it out. So yeah, now we've broken down all of those parts, we can listen to a bit of the whole track. Cool. Well, I hope that was interesting and that you got something out of it. If there's anything that you think I could have gone into more detail about, or if you'd like more content like this from my channel, then just let me know in the comments below and I'll make more videos like this. But yeah, please go check out the Patreon and like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.